Hello, and thanks for stopping by LoveCrafts today to join me for a little paper mischief. I'm Amy Sonnemann, and today I get to share with you 3 fun ways to be able to get more mileage out of your cardstock collection. The papers that I'm going to be using today are the heavyweight cardstock that's exclusive to LoveCrafts. It's a 100-pound paper, and you can get them in an assortment of rainbow colors as well as these beautiful neutrals. You can also purchase these in packs of 10 for any of the individual colors as well. The first thing we're going to do today is take some of the fun colors that you see here and create beautiful backgrounds using background stamps, embossing, as well as some different types of stamp pads that you might not have thought about. My goal today is to show you how to turn your cardstock collection into beautiful works of art. If you're a stamper like me, you might already have some beautiful background stamps in your collection. 6x6, whether it be flowers, stripes, dots, bold prints, fruits and veggies, leaves, loopy swirls, hexagons, this fun ditzy grid, confetti, dashes and dots, a celebration with balloons, and little tiny dots. Any of the backgrounds work the same way. So whatever technique I do today, any of the backgrounds work the exact same way. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the ditzy flowers from Photoplay paper, and we're going to use the Versamark stamp pad, which is typically for embossing. But if you use it on a dark paper, you get great results all by itself without embossing. So I wanted to show you that, and maybe use a product in your stash that you have not used in this way before. I've chosen a dark piece of black paper as well as the stamp that's very, very detailed to be able to show you how this works. So we're going to take our Versamark pad, we're going to ink up the whole background and be nice and generous. This is a clear ink. It's made for embossing, but it also gives a beautiful watermark look on dark paper. It doesn't work as well on lighter paper because it's light too. So we're going to just go ahead and ink it up, and then we're going to just press so that we get that Versamark ink all over the background on that black piece of paper. We're going to lift it up, and I want to put one more layer. I'm using the Hero Arts Misty to be able to allow me to stamp a second time in the exact same spot. We're going to do the exact same thing. In any place that you see that you might not have gotten a good coating, you're going to just go ahead and kind of concentrate in that area. You're going to get this subtle image in the background of the flowers. It would make a beautiful background for a wedding card. You could easily let that dry and emboss a sentiment on it just like that. You could cut a piece out to 3D mount on a card front. That would be beautiful as well. I'm going to ink my stamp again. I put my blue paper in. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to rub and press the stamp onto the paper so you can see the difference between a really dark color and then this blue. I can see where I missed a few spots right here. I didn't press hard enough. Not a problem with the Misty. You can go ahead and stamp again in the exact same spot, concentrating where I might have missed, didn't push quite hard enough. Now you can see the difference between the black and then the blue with the same exact ink. The one thing to remember about the Versamark ink is that it is meant for embossing, so it stays sticky for quite some time, so just set it aside or dry it with your heat tool. We're going to do the exact same thing on another black sheet of paper, but this time I'm going to show you what it looks like to emboss on that paper. It looks like I have everything stamped evenly. I'm going to bring in my clear embossing powder, which is what I use most. I'm going to put lots of embossing powder on it so it's coated well. Tap off anything that's extra. I'm going to use my heat gun to go ahead and heat the embossing powder on the paper. I do want to warm up my heat tool before I take it to the paper. So I'm going to turn off the sound, heat it up, and then I'm going to show you how beautiful this looks when it melts. And this is what it looks like once you've heat embossed it with clear embossing powder. It makes it glossy, it's a little bit raised, but it's absolutely stunning as a background. The quality of paper that you use is very important with the type of outcome that you'll get from your project. We've been using the 100-pound paper, and it's nice and sturdy, it's thick, it stands up to the heat, it doesn't warp. Next I'm going to try something that's really a whole lot thinner. It has a white core, where this is a solid color core. So when you tear it, you'll get a white core on this, but this you won't. It'll be as beautiful blue as it is right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to emboss on this much thinner paper. So we're going to go ahead and try the same thing. Now that we have our stamp inked up with the Versamark ink pad, we're going to bring in our embossing powder again, and we're going to coat the paper like we did last time. As you can see, the thinner paper buckled, and you're going to have to smooth it out and use a little bit more adhesive to be able to get it to lay smoothly on your project. So be aware that the quality of paper and the weight of paper that you use to emboss does make a big difference. The next technique I'd like to share with you is tone-on-tone stamping. And I chose a piece of deep blue LoveCrafts brand cardstock. I'm using the VersaFine Clair Medieval Blue. And then I'm going to take a background script stamp from Kaiser Craft. Next, I'm going to go ahead and ink up the script background. Make sure my paper's in place. That looks really nice, but I'm going to do one more stamped impression to make sure I have all of the areas. When you're done, you get this amazing background with tone-on-tone ink. This almost looks like a black ink, but it's actually more of a navy blue. So I just wanted to give you 3 ways to go ahead and get the most out of your stamps and your cardstock, to be able to just have fun and play, and who knows, maybe come up with something new and wonderful that you haven't tried before. Whether you use the Versamark watermark stamp pad to create subtle backgrounds like this, choose one of the many beautiful colors of embossing powder on the market to create backgrounds that are shiny, slightly raised, maybe a pearlescent, white with glitter. How stunning is that? This is even a little bit puffy. Or a fun metallic like this. This is the rose gold embossing powder on black. And then another clear embossing powder on a black background. Or you can do tone-on-tone stamping like this, with a color that's close to the color of your paper. Many of the companies in the stamping market right now have paper that have matching inks. This would be beautiful for that. Or go the next shade darker to give an even more dramatic effect. no matter what background stamps you choose, stamping, embossing, and inking on quality cardstock can create stunning backgrounds for you to use on any of your paper crafting projects. For the next set of techniques, I want to share some stenciling with you. Stencils can be used with some of the same techniques that you just saw with stamps, but you can ink blend them with stencils. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple tips that I enjoy with my stencil collection. We're going to start with the Maze stencil. It's a 6x6 stencil from Photoplay Paper. We're going to take our piece of classic cherry 100-pound cardstock from LoveCrafts. I'm just going to adhere it with some removable tape on the back side so that as I'm ink blending, it's not going to move. I'm going to use my Make Art Station from Ranger. I'm going to use my magnets to keep the stencil in place so that it's not moving around when I'm working on it. I'm going to go ahead and ink up my foam, my domed foam. The one thing you don't want to do is smush the ink into the paper. You just want to gently dab. And I'm just taking a light hand and I'm kind of twirling my tool to get a nice coating, but I don't want so much that it's going to ooze underneath the maze pattern. And because I have it taped on the back side, I can pick up one of the corners and peek at it to see if it looks the way I want it to look. I'm going to press that back down without moving it. I'm just going to add a little bit more. This will make sure it's nice and evenly coated. As it dries, it's going to give you that very subtle watermark effect. And you can leave it like that. But you know, why leave it like that when you can add embossing powder and turn it into something even more beautiful? So let's go ahead and add some embossing powder. I have a brand new bottle of gold embossing powder that I haven't tried yet, so I'm going to go ahead and test that out and see what we think. We're going to coat the whole background nice and evenly, shaking off the excess. Also tap off anything that might be stuck to a spot that we don't want it. We're going to heat up our embossing gun, and then we're going to heat the embossing powder on our paper. I don't know about you, but there's something gratifying about watching gold embossing powder melt on any color of paper. It turns out absolutely breathtaking, and you can make this into an element for a card or a layout in a traveler's notebook, any mixed media project. Before I move on, I also want to show you how the Versamark ink looks all by itself using a floral stencil, or what the Versamark ink looks like with clear embossing powder over the top. Just gives you that nice shine, a little bit of raised imaging. So lots of different ideas and designs that you can make with just a few stencils that you might already have on hand. We're going to take the exact same maze stencil and we're going to add paste to it. We're going to go ahead and use it on the 100-pound paper to show you how stable it is and very firm. It can stand up to the heaviest of heavy mixed media pastes. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to adhere our piece of black suede to the back of our stencil so that it doesn't move when we're working with it. This time I'm going to use the Tim Holtz Tonic Studios Mixed Media Mat because it cleans up so beautifully. Just so my project doesn't slide around, I'm just going to add a little piece of tape on either side and adhere it to the glass media mat. This time around, I think I'm going to use the Vicki Boutin Creative FX. As we open it up, it's this beautiful pink, kind of rosy color with a nice shine and shimmer. We're going to put it on our palette knife and we're just going to gently coat the black paper. Scraping off any excess. If we need more, we can go in and do more. The one thing you have to be aware of with your mixed media, any of the pastes or the glazes or gels, is that you have to work fairly quickly in cleaning it off of your stencil because it does stick and it does dry fairly quickly. So be sure you clean your stencils off right away when you're done. So when you're done, you gently pull up your stencil. Look at how gorgeous that mixed media paste works on top of the black 100-pound paper. Now, when this dries, it will dry flat, and I'll show you, because the media paste is so thick and it's so wet, it will bow your paper at first, but if your paper is good and it's nice and sturdy, when that dries, it'll dry flat. I set this aside so that it could start drying, and when I first pulled it apart, you remember how it was kind of bowed? Literally in just that 5 minutes, I was cleaning my stencil. The 100-pound paper smoothed right out, and it's going to be very easy to use in any of your paper crafting projects. It's not bent, it's not flimsy. So I just wanted to show you that as well. Now we will set this aside and let that dry. The next thing I want to do is show you how to tint your glaze to be able to create a custom color. My daughter's getting married in the next year, and her colors are navy and coral, and it's kind of hard to find a really pretty navy paste to be able to get that glossy color in the right shade. So we're going to go ahead and make our own. I liked a Stamp Market navy that I had in my stash. And we're just going to add some of that navy to my media mat here on the right. We're going to prep our paper and adhere it to the stencil like we did last time. And then adhere it to the mixed media mat. Now our paper is ready to go, and we're going to try to get a navy paste. So we're going to take a little bit of paste. We're just going to mix it in with that navy ink. And this is paper glaze from Picket Fence. Depending on how much ink you use and how much paste you add, you can get a light blue like this, which is really pretty actually. Or if we want it darker and deeper and a richer color, we can go ahead and add some more blue. See what it's going to look like. So each time you add more color, it gets a little bit darker. But I'm really liking this. Just mix it up really well. Load your palette. I just want a hint. I don't want to cover the whole thing. I just want just a slight background. With lots of white showing. When you like the way that looks, smooth it out. Always put your lid back on. I would go ahead and clean off the outside edge of any of your pastes before you put your lid on, because they will stick if you don't. I will come back in a few minutes after I'm finished and do that. Now we're going to go ahead and we're just going to lift our stencil off, and look at that. We went from a glossy white to this pretty glossy blue in minutes. You can customize any of your pastes with the color of your ink. I am so excited to just give you a sneak peek of the wonderful things that you can do when you have a great assortment of cardstock. As you know, die cuts are stunning just the way they are, but there's so much more you can do with them. You can add them to cards just the way they are, or you can cut out a background and add a little bit darker ink to highlight the areas that you would like to accent. You can add it to the same color of background paper and do a tone-on-tone background so that the inked images or the inked edges stand out from the lighter color background. You can also create an inked background and add your element on top of this pretty sky for a totally different look. If you want to get really fancy, you can use the background die on the same color paper, glue it down, and then use a white gel pen to create the textured background. You see just hints of that green in the background. And then I went in with a green pen and just gave the leaves a little bit of texture to make it look more like a leaf. If you're ever in need of a quick and easy card, pick 2 shades of the same color and grab your layered flower dies. Cut your first piece in the lighter shade, the background piece, and then the detail piece in a darker color. Layer them one on top of each other for a quick and easy flower. You can do the same with the green leaves. But if you want to add a little bit more fun to it, you can add ink blending to give the center a little bit more definition. It's subtle. You can make it subtle, you can make it pop. You can add a nice bright color here. If you want to add a little bit of sparkle, you can add the Nouveau Dream Drops to give it just a hint of texture and sparkle in the center of your flower. If you would like a more subtle green layered element, this green might be a little too bright for you. You can take the same green paper, ink blend a darker ink on top of it to get a totally different look. Add those pretty elements to one of the backgrounds we already created, and look how beautiful. Quick, easy, fun, and all with cardstock, your dies, and a little bit of pen work. Since the rainbow pack comes in such beautiful colors, I decided to make just some blank backgrounds that were rainbow striped. And I cut strips of each of the different colors and layered them one after another with a little bit of adhesive on the back. I love making rainbow backgrounds to use for a quick and easy card. You can use them straight, you can do them diagonally. This one I used my extra pieces and I'm going to die cut an element out of the middle. I probably won't use this for a card front, but mostly for an element. Aren't those stunning? They're all using the 100-pound cardstock, so they're nice and sturdy. This was my most favorite piece that I created while I was making samples for this video. Each strip has a smaller strip of black in between to create that space for your eye to enjoy each of the colors separately. Since the colors are so bright and you want whatever you put on top of it to stand out, I added a piece of vellum over the top and then added my word die cut on top of the vellum so that it gave it a subtle hint of color, but it wasn't distracting from the paper hugs in the middle. If you haven't tried using just a piece of vellum to tone your colors down, try it. It really does make a difference. With some of my scraps, I created just scraps of rainbow colors and added them onto a postage stamp punch. For fun little embellishments, just to add on a card or a layout, or in my pocket page scrapbooking. It'd be fun to add that inside of my traveler's notebook too. I used the layering dies to cut the background of the smile. out of the rainbow paper, and then I cut the smile out of a black piece and layered them one on top of the other to get this fun rainbow element. And you can get all kinds of different designs depending on where you place your die on the paper. If you put it at an angle, you get a different look. If you use a smaller pattern, you would get a totally different look as well. Lots of options for beautiful embellishments. Another way to use the rainbow cardstock is to cut out a die background. This one happens to be a small dot. Layer one over the top of the other to get a beautiful but subtle rainbow background. Isn't that stunning? I just love the way that looks. Add that to a card, add a sentiment, and you have a quick and easy card for any occasion. If you want to learn more about creating your own rainbow backgrounds, I will link another video that goes into greater detail in the description below, so be sure to check that out as well. I hope that you have gotten some great tips and tricks for using your cardstock to create fun embellishments, as well as backgrounds and so much more. Now it's your turn to grab your stash and start creating. If you like this video, please like, share, and leave a message. Thanks for watching.